ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुराः सुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So as we saw in the last session, the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we are going to start from today for the next 3 or 4 sessions, is called as Purushottama Prapti Yoga or Purushottama Yoga. Now, what is this Purushottama? Purushottama here in this chapter refers to that Nirguna Chaitanyam. Nirguna Chaitanyam or Brahman, which was described in the 14th chapter by Lord Krishna as Gunatita Atma, which was described by Lord Krishna in the 13th chapter as the Kshetrajna, as the Purushaha, and as the Gneyam, and also which was described in the 9th chapter and 7th chapter as the Paraprakriti, and also in the 8th chapter as the Aksharam Brahma. So this Purushottama refers to that Brahman or that Nirguna Chaitanyam, knowing which, understanding which, knowing the nature of which the Jiva completely eliminates the samsara. And as I told you in the last session itself, this 15th chapter can be called as or can be seen as a complete chapter. Because here what is happening is Bhagwan Krishna is giving in brief a kind of a summary of whatever is the content of the teaching of Vedanta. Here Jagat Swarupam is talked about. Jiva Swarupam is talked about. How Jagat becomes a bondage to the Jiva, that also is being talked about. And what is the meaning of mukti or moksha, or what is the meaning of freedom or getting out of this bondage? That also is talked about. And what are the sadhanas? What are the means? What are the sadhanas for this understanding, or the sadhanas for attaining this ultimate goal called as Purushottama Prapti, or what is called as moksha, which is the ultimate goal of every human birth, what is the sadhana? What are the sadhanas that are to be done? This whole thing is put together in a very, very brief chapter which has only 20 verses. But this is a chapter which is loaded, because this is one chapter, which gives a bird's eye view of all that is being taught in Vedanta. And after having completed the study of Bhagavad Gita, completely, the Moolam at least, after having completed the Moolam, or the basic, the Bhagavad Gita as explained by by Bhagwan Krishna, many times Purushottama Prapti Yoga is studied as a revision again and again and again. For repeated revisions, 15 chapter is taken, because it's almost like the condensation of the entire Vedic teaching. And here, first Bhagwan Krishna, in the first 6 verses, actually first 2.5 verses, talks about what is the nature of this Jagat. See, because we have here the Jiva, the individual self, me, and the Jagat which is around me, with whom I am interacting, transacting, and I find that this Jagat is a bondage to me. Correct? So, what is this Jagat? And how this Jagat, what is the nature of this Jagat? How this Jagat is causing bondage to the individual Jiva. So, to start with, the chapter starts with the very nature of the Swarupam of Jagat itself. First 2.5 verses, the first 2 verses and the first line of the third verse, are starting with the nature or the description of the entire Jagat. And this Jagat in our scriptures is called as samsara. Why is it called samsara? Because when a jiva interacts with the Jagat, it is that Jagat because of which the jiva experiences the sukha, dukkha, raga, dvesha, shoka, moha. All these things are the experiences of the jiva because of its interaction with the Jagat. And therefore, our scriptures call Jagat as samsara for a jiva. Actually speaking, Jagat is not a samsara at all. It doesn't bind. Jagat is Ishvara's creation. But what binds a jiva to the Jagat? It is not understanding the reality of the Jagat, not understanding the reality of oneself, the jiva. The Jagat always seems to be as if it is binding the jiva. So, what is the nature or the swarupam of this jagat or samsara? That is being explained in the very first verse of this 15th chapter. So, let's read the first verse here. And in this chapter, there are no questions from Arjuna. There is no Arjuna Uvacha. The entire chapter is as though Bhagwan is revising all that has been told from the third chapter onwards. So now let's start with the first verse. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Urdhva Shakham Ashvatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavet. This verse, actually, Lord Krishna has bodily lifted literally from Kathopanishad. In the very last Valli of Kathopanishad, Bhagwan Yamadharmaraja, the Acharya, is talking about this Jagat Swarupam to his Shishya, who's an 8-year-old boy Nachiketa, and the same verse is being lifted from there. The only difference is Urdhva Moolaha, okay, here Adha Shakam is here, there Avak Shakaha. Avak or Adha means it's the same thing. So, Bhagwan describes this samsara rupi jagat in the form of the imagery of a tree. So, samsara vriksha is being described here by Lord Krishna, which is also described in the Kathopanishad. And it is so wonderful to read the Bhashyam written by Bhagwan Shankaracharya, both in Kathopanishad as well as in Bhagavad Gita, for this first verse as to what is the nature of samsara. But here, being the Moolam session, briefly I will explain to you what is the meaning of this samsara vriksha. Why is it that the Kathopanishad and Bhagwan Krishna describe this samsara, this jagat, in the form of a tree. It is described in the form of a samsara vriksha. So let us see how Bhagwan describes this tree of samsara or samsara vriksha. And let us see what are the commonalities between a tree and this samsara. So now going to the meaning of this verse, urdhva moolam adha shakha. That means here, this is the tree of samsara, this is the tree of jagat, this is the very tree of creation whose branches are seen. Those branches which are below, adhaha means below, that means those which are here around us in this jagat, we are able to see. Just like in a tree, a normal tree also, we are able to see the tree, the branches, the stem and everything here. The moolam or the root of the tree is not seen by us, correct? But we infer that if this tree is here standing, it must be well rooted. There must be roots which are within the ground, within the earth, which we are not able to see. But here, the same logic is used by Bhagwan Krishna, but he says here that this tree of samsara or this tree of life or this tree of jagat or creation, which you see has all its manifestations or branches available to us for perception, and they are below. Whereas, where is the moolam? Urdhva moolam. This moolam is something above. Urdhvam means above. Above means what? This moolam is that Brahman. The moolam is that Brahman which is the highest, which is the most exalted, which is represented here as above. Actually speaking, there is nothing above and below. That which is not seen by us, that which is not obvious to us, but that moolam or that root because of which the entire tree of samsara is available to us for perception, available to us for interaction, whose moolam, whose root is avyaktam, that which is not available to us, that moolam of this samsara is nothing but that avyakta Brahma, that avyakta Brahman, which was called as Aksharam Brahma in the 8th chapter, which was called as Paraprakriti by Bhagwan in the 7th and in the 9 chapters. So here Bhagwan says, Urdhva Moolam. That root which sustains this tree of samsara is not available to us for perception. It is the very Brahman, Aksharam Brahman, which is the Jagat Karanam. And the Karyam, the tree, the Karyam, which is the tree, with all its branches, is seen by us, in which we are all existing as a part of this Jagat. Okay, and he says, Urdhva Moolam shakham, shakham. This tree which has visible shakhas or branches. And this tree is what kind of a tree is it? Ashwatham prahuhu avyayam. Prahuhu, all the jnanis or the people who know, compare this tree of samsara with the tree of Ashwatha. What is this Ashwatha tree? In Kannada, we call it as Aralimara. You know, it is the Ashwatham. It is not the banyan tree. There's a little difference. They belong to the different species, but they belong to the same genus, Ficus. It's called as the ficus, you know. And Ashwatha tree is called as Ficus religiosa. That is a botanical name given to this ficus tree, Ashwatha tree. And they say who these jnanis and also the Upanishadic gurus, the rishis say that this samsara rupi vriksha can be compared to an Ashwatha, can be compared to an Ashwatha vriksha. And this vriksha is avyaya. Avyaya means what? That which keeps going. It is there for a long time. There is a tree there, Ashwatha tree. Then the seeds fall there. The tree continues. The roots are there, and some secondary roots. Of course, the secondary roots are not as prominent as in banyan tree, but still the Ashwatha vriksha has got the secondary roots by which the tree becomes very, very solid support it, and then the tree is avyayam. Avyayam means what? This tree is living or alive for a long period of time. And chandamsi yasya parnani. What are the leaves of this tree? He says that the leaves of the trees can be compared to the Vedas. Vedas. Now, what is the reason why we give comparison? Why, Upanishad Guru as well as Bhagwan gave this example of the leaves of this tree being the Vedas. Chandamsi means the Vedas, the Vedic mantras, especially the Veda Purva mantras are like the leaves. Why? The leaves are the ones which sustain the tree. It is the leaves which absorb the water. It is the leaves in which the photosynthesis takes place. It is the leaves of the tree which keep the tree going, sustained. The tree is sustained by leaves. And it is said that this samsara, this jagat, continues to live forever, in the sense it recycles again and again and again. And this samsara continues for a long time only because of the Vedas. What are the Vedas doing? Especially the Veda Purva. The Veda Purva has lots, thousands of mantras which are, making a person who follows them and does the karmas. These mantras propel a person to do the karmas. There is a karma phala which is got, and this karma phala keeps this samsara tree going. Therefore, the Vedas, the Vedic mantras, Chandamsi, Yasya Vrikshasya, Asya Vrikshasya, Parnani Iva. Parnani means what? Like the leaves. Just like the leaves sustain a tree, the Vedas sustain this Jagat. In what form? The Vedas make a person, a jiva, to perform, the yagas, the karmas, whatever it is, which is, talked about in the Veda Purva, which keeps this samsara, this Jagat, perpetuating again and again because of karma, karma phala, karma, karma phala, karma, karma phala. Like that, the Vedic mantras are like the leaves of this Ashwatha tree. And he says, Yas tam Veda sa Vedavid. The one who knows, the one who understands this tree of life, this tree of samsara, as explained by Lord Krishna here, and as explained by Acharya Yama in the Kathopanishad, the one who really understands the swarupam of this, the swarupam of this vriksha, this Ashwata vriksha, is the one who really understands the nature of this Jagat. Now let us see what are the common points. Why is it that the samsara is compared to a vriksha or to a tree, especially the Ashwatha vriksha? Why is it compared to that? Let us see some of the common examples. See, whenever the Vedas, whenever Vedanta or Bhagwan in Gita gives an imagery, an image is given, an imagery is given, there are a lot of common things. Sadharmyam is called. Sadharmyam means what? Lot of common things are there between the example given and also that substance for which the example is given. Here, what is talked about is the samsara or the jagat, the ever renewable, the ever renewed, the ever recycled jagat around us, which is called as samsara by the Vedas, because it tends to bind the individual, makes the individual come back again and again and again into this samsara. Therefore, this tree of samsara is compared to an Ashwatha Vriksha because of certain common points. Let us see the first point. The first point is Mahatvam. Mahat, this entire creation is so huge. We don't know where it begins, where it ends, where it is, situated, where is the middle of it. It is Mahat. It, in the sense, it is huge, the hugeness, unimaginable size, the largeness of the universe. And the Ashwatha tree is also like that. Where is the beginning? Where is the end? Where is the main stem? Where is it? We cannot remember. The huge one, and under that temples are there, so many things are there. It's a huge Ashwatha Vriksha. Most of the time we find this Ashwatha Vriksha very, very huge, Mahatvam. Second thing is Sanatanatvam. It is Sanatanam. Sanatanam here does not mean it is Nityam or all the time present. It is something which is present for a very long, long, long time. Long time it is present. So just like this Ashwatha Vriksha, which is alive for years together, and many times we can't even say that this Ashwatha Vriksha is so many years old. It is so old. Similarly, this Jagat or this samsara is also something which is anadi. It can be ended. The samsara can be ended for me personally. A mumukshu, when he becomes a jnani, and when tathapadam tat parimargitavayam, later he says, yad gatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. This samsara tree can be ended. This samsara tree can end for an individual when the individual understands the very nature of Jagat, the very nature of Jiva, and the very nature of Brahman. But then, till then, till then, this Ashwatha Vriksha Rupi Samsara is Sanatanam or Anadi. Then what? Then next one is, it is Anirvachaniyam, the third point. Now, Anirvachaniyam means what? Whether this Jagat is the cause or the effect, we don't know. Is this whole Jagat we see? So many names and forms we see. What comes from what? What is the cause? What is the effect? From where this particular thing has come? We don't know. Similarly, this Vriksha, what is the cause? From which seed it has come? Which is the original seed from which it has come? From where the new branches are coming? We don't know. Anirvachaniyatvam. Because there is no, Anirvachaniya means inexplainable. Whether it's a cause, whether it is an effect, it cannot be made out. The next one is the root is invisible. Correct? In a vriksha also, the ultimate, the original cause, the root is not visible. What Lord Krishna said, in the seventh, para and apara prakriti, both of them are avyakta. We cannot see them. We only see the manifestation of this para apara prakriti combination as the jagat. But where is this moolam? Moolam is invisible in this samsara vriksha also. At the same time, in a vriksha, in a regular tree also, the moolam is not visible. It is somewhere else. Then branches in different directions. Correct? A vriksha has branches in different directions. And our samsara vriksha also has got branches, means what? Different lokas. The 14 lokas above, in the middle, and below, all the Atala, Vitala, Sutala, down below from the Manushya Loka, then Bhuloka, Bhuvar Loka, Suvar Loka, Mahar Loka, Jana, all, totally all the fields of experience called as the 14 lokas. What are they? They are nothing but the branches of this samsara vriksha. And all the jivas are sitting in various branches. One particular jiva, after the death of this body, may travel to one higher branch, again come back to a lower branch, like the birds who are just flying and jumping from one branch to the other. Therefore, in different directions, the Ashwatha, not only Ashwatha, any tree has got branches above, below, lower branches, upper branches, and similarly, this samsara also has these branches in the form of various lokas in various directions. And then leaves sustain a vriksha, as I told you. Similarly, the samsara vriksha is sustained by Vedas, especially the Veda Purva. Just like the leaves breathe for the tree, keep the tree going, it is the Vedas which breathe life into this tree of samsara. And lastly, there are fruits which are there, flowers and fruits in the trees, correct? Similarly, the samsara vriksha also has got fruits in the form of karma phala. If the leaves are the chandamsi, if the leaves are the Vedic mantras, if the leaves are compared to the sadhanas mentioned in the Vedic mantras, then what is the phalam? What is the sadhyam? This phalam or sadhyam or whatever is got out of that is the karma phala. And it is the karma phala which all the birds, the jivas, are experiencing, either enjoying or suffering. That is why we have another mantra in the Upanishads called as, a mantra called as Dvasuparna Sayuja Sakhaya in Mundakopanishad. It comes also in the Katopanishad also. That is, there are like jivas, two jivas. One is just jumping from one branch to the other, experiencing this karma phala, constantly doing the karma. But there is one other bird, which is the Paramatma, which is sitting without moving, without any karma, continuously observing the Jiva Rupi bird. But that is not mentioned here. Here, it is sufficient enough to say that the fruits of the tree are the karma phalas which are experienced by the jivas. And you know how noisy a tree is, correct? A tree is so noisy. So many beings are in that tree. Birds are there, bees are there, snakes are there, so many things are there like that. This samsara, this jagat also has so many beings. It's a very, very noisy thing. And lastly, a tree can be uprooted. That means a tree can be cut. Okay, vrishanat vrikshaha. Vrishanat means what? Because a tree can be cut, asundered. Similarly, this samsara, this jagat, the bondage of this jagat also can be destroyed. By what? By the sword of knowledge, which Bhagavan is going to say in the next few verses. Therefore, what is this samsara that we are seeing here? This is like a vriksha which is constantly present. And unless we decide, unless the jiva decides that enough of this samsara and bondage, I want to get out of this samsara, I want to understand the reality of this samsara or this jagat, I want to understand the reality of me, the jiva, I want to understand what is that invisible root or Brahman which sustains this jiva, which sustains this jagat, and ultimately, how can I get out of the bondage of this samsara? Unless a jiva, I become a mumukshu and go through the proper sadhanas of karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga, then it is possible for me to cut or destroy this tree of samsara for myself. I can't destroy the tree of samsara because it is Ishvara Srishti. But I can get out of the bondage of this samsara. I can jump out of the bondage of this samsara. I'll be there. This jagat will be there. But it will no longer be a source of bondage to me. And that is possible. It is explained here as I can literally cut or asunder the tree. That is going to be told in the future verses. Now, the same thing is again explained in the next verse also. What kind of branches are there? It's an extension of the same verse. The second verse says, अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखाः गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवालाः अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके. So, adhascha urdhvam cha prasritaha tasya shakhaha. Tasya shakaha, kasya shakaha, vrikshasya shakaha. This vriksha, the samsara rupi vriksha shakhas or branches, adhascha urdhvam cha. They are spread in all directions and they are the lokas which we call. And every time a jiva leaves the physical body and travels, it again comes back onto one of these branches. One of these branches are the home for the jiva whenever it comes back again and again. Therefore, this tree has widespread branches in all the 14 lokas. And what is it that branches, how are these branches actually grown? These branches also grow. We have seen that in a tree, how sometimes the branches can grow so much that they can literally bend the tree. The branches can grow in all directions. What is it that is the stimulus for the branches of the samsara to grow? In the second line, he says, Guna pravriddhaha Vishaya pravalaha. The gunas, what we saw in the 14th chapter, Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas, propel a person, a jiva, into different kinds of karmas, in different kinds of activities. And as I continue to be more and more and active and do more and more and more karma, I am literally giving life to these branches. These branches are becoming more and more lusher and greener and stronger. Sometimes you find that some branches are so strong, some branches are very, very thin, some branches are very, very, very strong and thick. So these gunas, the sattva, rajas, tamo gunas, whichever guna is pradhanyam in a jiva, which was discussed very detailed in the 14th chapter, these gunas will continue to provoke and propel the jiva into certain types of actions, and thus this kind of an activity or karma of the jiva goes on strengthening these branches. And what are these branches? Nothing but the different lokas of the samsara. And the jiva comes back again and again onto these branches. And Vishaya Pravalaha. Vishaya means what? The sense objects. The sense objects for whose sake, for which sake the gunas are propelling me into action. The raga dveshas, for certain things, Vishayas, they are pravala. You know what is a pravala? See, on the branches of the trees, we find some nodes, some thickened areas, the nodes. And we find that slowly one day we find from one of the nodes a small tender branch is shooting out. Shoots, we can call them the shoots. So the pravala are the shoots or the branches which come out of the nodes from these big branches. And which are, what are they? These nodes or these shoots are Vishayas. Vishaya means the objects of the world outside. Because of the objects of the world outside, as I, the Jiva, is transacting with the Jagat, with the objects of the world, what do I say? I want this, I want this, I want this. Okay? Because of raga. Or because of dvesha, hey, I don't want this, I don't like this. Fine. So our raga dveshas towards the sense objects, which are called as the vishayas, are the ones which are giving strength to these branches to grow. It is making us involve ourselves into various kinds of karmas, and the branches are growing. And what is the stimulus? What is the stimulation for our actions so that the branches are thickened? It is the Vishayas. It is the sense objects of the Jagat outside are like the nodes or the shoots that we see on each branches. And he says that adhascha mulani anusantatani. Sometimes there are secondary roots also coming down from the main tree and keeping this tree well entrenched. Adhascha mulani. Adhascha mulani, the secondary roots, not the main. You see some, you don't see so much in a ashwatha, but in a banyan tree. You cannot make out which are the secondary roots and which is the primary one, the stem. It's all as though they're coming down and getting into the soil and strengthening. So, adhascha mulani anusantatani. What are the secondary roots which are keeping this samsara vriksha very, very strong and entrenched? Raga dveshas. Ranusantatani means continue to keep this samsara strengthened. What are they? Ragadveshas. All the time, I want, I want, I want this. I want to have this. I want to protect this. Ragadveshas for arthas, kama. That is the three purusharthas. Artha, kama, and dharma. Dharma is also a type of purushartha where you want to accumulate. What? Punya. Artha and kamas are for what? For personal gain or personal security and happiness. So he says, adhascha mulani anusantatani, because of this karma anubandhini manushya loke. So in this manushya loka, we the jivas are bound by these karmas, which are propelled by ragadveshas, the secondary roots of the ashwatha tree, At the same time, the Vishayas outside, which are the Pravalas, the leaves are the ones which are breathing life into us, telling us what to do to attain this, what to do to attain that. Whether it is a Laukika karma or Vaidika karma, how to go about it, how to do this job, how to attain this, how to make more money, how to have more security, how to get more of this, more of that leaves. So, this entire tree of samsara is this. By karma, I sustain the tree of samsara. Who? The jiva sustains the tree of samsara and binds this jiva karma anubandhini manushya loke. These secondary roots of ragadveshas anusantatani constantly keep this jiva bound in this samsara. And the next half of the next verse is now talking about where does this samsara begin? Where does this end? Where is the middle of this? How did it start? We don't know. If we say, when did this start? When does this creation start? It started with the Big Bang theory or whatever. Science may give so many answers. Then we may say, oh, it started as an effect of the previous Srishti. Its previous Srishti. Where is the beginning? It's a cyclical process. If there is a straight line, I can say it began here, it ends here. When does this samsara begin and when it ends? When this jagat begins, when this ends? There is no question of its adi or its anta. It is an anadi samsara vriksha. It is an ananta samsara vriksha till I understand that this samsara bondage can be ended for me. Enough of this samsara vriksha. Enough of this jumping from branch to branch. Enough of this strengthening of samsara. I have done enough of it. Now it is high time I understand the futility of this and jump out of this samsara cycle, which is something which I don't know what it is. Till then, this samsara vriksha remains for me. It remains forever. Unless I, the jiva, because of some purva punya or the association with gurus and Ishvara Kripa, Shastra Kripa, Guru Kripa, Atma Kripa, because of which I get into this Shastram, try to get out of this samsara. So the third verse says, Narupamasyeha tatopalabhyate nanto na chadirna cha sampratishtha ashvatthaменam suvirudhamulam asangashastreణ dhridena chitva. So, narupamasyeha tathopalabhyate. What is really its reality? We don't know. It is impossible to say what is the reality of this. Where has it begun? Nanto na chadir na cha sampratishta. Okay? Na rupam asya iha tataha upalabhyate. What is this samsara? What is this jagat? Why am I suffering like this? Why is it that I'm enjoying sometimes suffering like this? What is it that makes me completely get out of my senses sometimes? What is it that makes me do things which I know are not the right things to be done? What is it that prevents me from doing that which is the right thing to be done? What is it that keeps me going again and again, strengthening this kind of a bondage for me? I don't know. This samsara vriksha's rupam, what is really its nature? Na rupamasyeha tataha upalabhyate. It is not possible to know unless I surrender to the Shastra. I surrender to the Guru. It's only the Shastra, it's only the Vedanta which can explain to me what is this samsara. What is that which has appeared as samsara? From where it has come? It is only the Shastra that can tell me. Na rupa tasyeha, na rupa masya iha tatopalabhyate, nanto na chadir na cha sampratishta. Where has it begun? Where is its middle? Where does it end? It is not possible for us to know. For this mind, this very, very, limited mind, we do not know where it starts, where it exists, how long it will exist, where it ends, we don't know. But see the next line, that is, the what you call as something which is good news for us. something which gives us that kind of a peace, which says, Ashwathamenam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dhridena chitva. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, though this tree of samsara is binding you, it can be cut. Chitva, chitva means it can be cut, asunder by what? Suvirudha moolam ashwatham yenam. This well entrenched tree of samsara, Ashwatha, can be cut, can be removed. I can be free from this tree of samsara. And for that, Arjuna, there are certain sadhanas. So let me tell you now what are those 4 sadhanas which are helpful in freeing me from this samsara. This sadhana which I do as a jiva, which will free only me, not the whole samsara, still continues for the other people. Like somebody, it seems, asked, if this samsara is cut, what will happen to others? Don't bother about others. You think of yourself, the one who's bound. You do what you have to do. You end the samsara for yourself. That is enough. Don't bother about others. It will always be there for them. That's what the Guru said, it seems. So now Krishna is telling Arjuna and us, see, I will give you 4 sadhanas, which I've already given you in all these chapters. Since this 15th chapter is literally like I'm summarizing all the teaching. But then I have already given you, I will give you 4 sadhanas which can help a jiva to get rid of this samsara bondage for himself. So he says, first, asanga shastrena dhridena. Asanga shastra. With a shastra or with the sword of asangatvam or vairagya. Now, I'm not going to explain in the 15th chapter what is vairagya. We have already seen in the 2nd chapter, 3rd chapter, 4th chapter, 5th chapter, what is vairagya, 6th chapter. Vairagya means what? Not an undue attachment or entanglement with either the people of the Jagat or the objects of the Jagat or with the situation. No undue entanglement with this body, mind, sense complex. Giving the right value to everything in the Jagat outside. Not overvaluing or undervaluing anything in the Jagat. This is what is called as Vairagya, which is one of the most important of sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. Remember, Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhi, Shatka sampatti, Mumukshutvam. These 4 are called as sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. And in Viveka Chudamani, Bhagwan Shankaracharya says, Vairagyam is one of the most important of the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. It is this Vairagyam, or it is this disentanglement which really makes you seriously to seek for the solution from the bondage of samsara. So asanga shastrena dhridena, that commitment to get out of this tree of samsara, asanga shastrena, using this shastra or the sword of vairagya asina. So the first sadhana is talked about in the last 2 lines of the 3rd verse. Now let us go to the 4th verse. The 4th verse again talks about again the sadhanas. It continues. That's why I said this is a complete chapter. First 2.5 verses, the nature of samsara and its bondage. I want to get out of this samsara. I'm already a mumukshu. What are the sadhanas that are necessary for me? Bhagavan is reminding me the very first sadhana is vairagyam. Then the next sadhana comes in the 4th verse. He says, Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuyaha tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatah pravritti prasrita purani. What's the meaning of this now? The second one, the second, whatever is the sadhana, parimarganam. Tataha padam tat parimargitavyam. From vairagya, one has to become a tivra mumukshu and go to the shastra vichara. Parimarganam means vichara. Parimarganam. a proper inquiry of the Shastra, Guru Mukhena Shastra Vichara. That is called as Parimargitavyam, a proper inquiry. So, who should you be? You should be a Jignasu Bhakta. One should be a Jignasu, a Mumukshu, a Jignasu Bhakta to know the very nature of Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. So, the next sadhana is what? Inquiry, a proper inquiry into the nature of Jiva Jagat, Parimargitavyam Tat Padam. What is that Moolam? Urdhva Moolam. What is that Aksharam Brahma, which is the very Moolam of this entire Jagat, which is at present appearing to me a bondage? Knowing that root, that Moolam, I can be free from this bondage of this samsara. What is that Moolam? What is that Brahman? What is that Kshetrajna? What is that Paraprakriti? This Parimarganam, this inquiry is the second sadhana. So, what is the first sadhana? Vairagyam. Second sadhana, Mumukshutvam and inquiry. Padam tat tataha, from there, tat padam, that moolam, that root, what it is, what is that Brahman? Parimargitavyam, may you inquire. Parimargitavyam, tavyam, tavya pratyaya is what? One should. Bhagwan is telling you should inquire into this. This is absolutely necessary for a person who has taken birth as a human being. That's why in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Bhagwan Yajnavalkya tells his wife Maitreyi, Atma va are drishtavyah shrotavyo mantavyo nididhyasi tavyah. Tavyah means what? It should be. This Brahman should be inquired into. This is the only way of freedom from the bondage of samsara. Therefore, second sadhana is what? A proper inquiry into the Shastra, Guru Mukhena, Parimarganam, Padam Tat Padam Parimargitavyam. Know about that Moolam, Urdhva Moolam, Avyaktam, Aksharam Brahma, Parimarganam. What is the purpose of knowing it? Yasmin gata nanivartanti bhuyaha. Once you understand that Brahman, moksha, there is no question of coming back. Yasmin gata nanivartanti bhuyaha. Once that goal of knowing this Brahman by proper Shastra Vichara is done, there is no question of the jiva again coming back into one of these branches of the samsara tree. I have jumped out of the samsara tree. I have cut this samsara tree for myself. Yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuyaha. Again, I don't come back into this samsara on these various branches and be bound by them. Second sadhanam is over. Then he says, Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. Third sadhana. What is it necessary now? I have got Vairagya also. I have got this Jignasu Bhakti, Parimargitavyam, Parimarganam, inquiry into Vedanta I want to do. But what is the most important other thing that is necessary for this Mumukshu? Sharanagati or Prapatti or Ananya Bhakti. That is what is said. Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. Okay, this is the other sadhana. A mumukshu, a vairagi, a person who is a viragi, who has vairagya, has to surrender to Ishvara, has to surrender to that Brahman, surrender to Shastra, surrender to Guru. Ananya Bhaktya. How many times has Krishna said that in the 10th chapter, 11th chapter, 12th chapter? Ananya Bhaktya. With this Ananya Bhakti, you surrender to me. And what did Krishna say? I will bring in the light of knowledge to you. Okay, this Shastra lamp, I will bring this lamp or light of knowledge. You surrender to me. Lord Krishna said in the 10th chapter, in the 11th chapter. So he says, Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. So the third sadhana is prapatti. Prapatti means what? Surrender, sharanagati. To whom? Adyam purusham, to that Brahman. that Adyam original, to that the very first Paraprakriti or Brahman or Ishvara, Tamevacha Adyam Purusham. Adyam, the original, the only Brahman, Prapadye. I surrender to that Brahman. That surrender should be there. Otherwise, oh, I'm very rational, I'm very qualified, I'm an MBA, I'm this, I know Sanskrit very well. I don't need anything. I can do the Parimarganam by myself. I have got enough Vairagya. What is there, Ishvara? Nothing. I have to just think for myself. No, that won't work. I have to Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti. That's why I was talked about in the 11th chapter before all this came. I have to see everything as Ishvara. I have to surrender to that Vishwarupa Ishvara. That Ananya Bhakti is what is, literally that which is the water that is, given to the seed for this Jnanam to sprout. So, Tameva Chadyam Purusham Prapadye Yataha Pravritihi Prasruta Purani. That Adya Purusha Brahman, from where Yataha Pravrittihi Utpattihi Prasrita Purani emerges this entire universe. I have to surrender to that source only. You see, this is the I won't say fun. This is this is the very Ascharya-kara Sangati in Vedanta. You must surrender to that principle about which you want to know, because there is nothing else there. There's nothing else. One, I want to know Brahman, I want to know Ishvara, I want to surrender to that Ishvara. So, yataha pravrittihi prasrita purani. Tameva Adyam Purusham, that Brahman from which this entire universe emerges and spreads as the samsara, that Adyam Purusham Prapadye, I surrender, and then with that surrender and with that commitment, Ananya Bhakti, and Bananya Bhakti, and also with this sword of Vairagya, I get into the inquiry of what this Jagat is, what this Jiva is, what this entire, bondage that I am going through. Four sadhanas have been talked about. What is that? Vairagyam is talked about. Then Parimarganam is talked about. Then we are having this Prapatti. Last thing, the fourth one, is the values that one has to develop to make one's mind mature enough for this knowledge to take place. These are the values which were talked about by Bhagwan in the 13th chapter. What are those values that were talked about? Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshanti, Arjavam, Acharyopasanam, Shaucham, Atma Vinigraha. Okay, 20 values were talked about. The sadgunas, the values, which make a mind mature enough for the seed of knowledge to really spurt and sprout into the tree. So, what are these values? This is the fourth sadhana, imbibement of these values which are necessary to make my intellect fit enough to receive this knowledge. Vairagyam, prapatti or sharanagati, and this knowledge, what is called as mumukshutvam or parimarganam, inquiry, and the mind which is made free of raga dveshas by karma yoga, expanded enough by Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti, made mature enough by these values. And what are these values? Bhagwan is giving just a small revision of these values which he talked about in the 13th chapter. Fifth verse. निर्मानमोहाजितसङ्गदोषाः अध्यात्मनित्या विनिवृत्तकामाः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ताः सुखदुःखसंज्ञैः गच्छन्त्यमूढाः पदमव्ययं तत्. This padam avyayam Brahman, this padam about which we are going to inquire, reaching which, knowing which, I make myself free from this samsara. Only a person amudhaha, an unconfused person, a discriminative person, only reaches that. Last line, gachanti amudhaha padam avyayam tat. That padam, that avyayam Brahman is understood or reached by only amudhas. Who are these amudhas? The sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikaris, all the four things we talked about. And what is the fourth sadhana which is being talked about in the form of inculcating these values? Nirmana, nirmoha. We have already talked about that. Getting rid of the manitvam, amanitvam. Nirmana means what? Amanitvam. Nirmoha. Okay, not getting confused by what is, getting out of confusion. Jita sanga doshaha, all that entanglement, attachment, what is called is abhishvanga in 13th chapter. See, in Bhagavad Gita, we have to keep going back to the previous chapters again and again. So what did he say? Anabhishvangaha putra dara grahadishu in the 8th verse of the 13th chapter. What is anabhishvangaha? No sangaha. Sangaha means what? Undue attachment, undue entanglement with a few people, with a few things, with a few situations in life as these are my people, these are my things, these are my situations. So this kind of an extreme attachment is called as sangaha. So the ones who have understood that everything belongs to Ishvara, nothing belongs to me. Everything is Jagat, nothing is mine, nothing is permanent. Jita Sanga Doshaha. Those who have won over this Abhishvanga or undue attachment, those who have understood the futility of extreme attachment to people and the Jagataram, they are called as Jita Sanga Doshaha. Adhyatma Nitya. We saw that. Adhyatma Nityatvam. Same words have been used in the 13th chapter. The one who is committed to this knowledge. Nityatvam means all the time, constantly. It's not a question of being interested in this knowledge, listening to a few sessions here and there, and then for years together you give a gap and then come. No, that's not the thing. Adhyatma Nityam is the one who's constantly connected to this inquiry. Vinivritta Kamaha. With Karma Yoga, he has made his Chitta Shuddhi sufficient enough that Ragadveshas, Kama Krodhas are not disturbing his mind, because of which dvandvaihi vimuktaha. He does not take anything as dvandva. Everything that comes is taken as, yes, this is a situation which has to be faced. This is neither sukha nor dukkha. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau. We saw that. In the 12th chapter also we saw that. Again sukha dukkha labha. In second chapter again, dukkeshu anudvigna mana, sukheshu vigata sprahaha. So, dvandvaihi vimuktaha. Dvandvas or the polar opposites are no longer seen as bondages, but they are merely seen as situations which have to be dealt with. Sukha dukkha sanyaihi. No situation is taken as sukha or dukkha. Every situation is taken as that which has come to me because of prarabdha, and this body mind sense complex has to work out that particular situation. So not getting entangled either as sukha or dukkha or good or bad, acceptable, non-acceptable. Dvandvair vimuktaha. Sukha dukkha sanyaihi dvandvaihi nirmuktaha. Means like sukha dukkha, free from all dvandvas like sukha dukkha. What is the meaning of that? It means that this person understands that, really speaking, there are no dvandvas, there are no polar opposites. These are mere situations to be dealt with according to the prarabdha of this body mind sense complex. Nothing can cause sukha or dukkha to me, the Atma. I am the Gunatita Atma. Now, these values which are inculcated is the fourth sadhana. So, what are the four sadhanas? One is Vairagyam. Second one is inquiry into the Vedantic teaching of the nature of Jiva Jagatishvara. And for that, as a preparation, Prapatti or Sharanagati to Ishvara, and making the mind clear, Shuddhi of the mind, maturity of the mind by inculcating the values like amanitvam, adambitvadi, which is explained in the 7th and 8th verses of the 13th chapter very clearly. And such a person is able to clear the bondage from the sea, from the tree of samsara for himself. And where does he reach? Yad gatvanani vartante. Reaching where? Understanding which there is no question of coming back at all to this life of samsara. So with this, we will, stop the, session today, where we have seen the nature of samsara compared to the tree. And if I want to get out of this samsara, if I feel the bondage by this samsara, what are the 4 sadhanas that are necessary? That was what was told. And then from the next verse, in the next verse, Bhagwan talks about what is the nature of this Adyam Purushaha, or this Moolam, Moola Purushaha, or this Kshetrajna or Brahman. What is the nature of this Brahman is going to be talked about in the next verse. And after that, what is the Jiva Swarupa? That is what is going to be talked about after this. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय